Hey, everybody, this is Daniel White at DW, and we're calling you from the San Diego airport, headed back to Denver, Colorado tonight. And we just want to welcome everyone to what we call the Doctor's Clinic Call. And we get on here, and we try to give you information that's going to put you in a position to have optimal health, where your health can be at its, at its greatest strength, where you have the best advantage to take on what life throws at you. And we've got an amazing gentleman here that I have an enormous amount of confidence in and love for, and his name's Dr. Kurt Fisnick. He's also one of our featured speakers at our Masters Convention, so if you want to come meet him live and spend some time, he's going to be in Pennsylvania in the Lancaster area. You can get details from the person that brought you. And tonight we're getting into just a whole other level on how to fire up your telomeres so your body is shooting more cells to your organs instead of them shrinking and becoming kind of crusty and molded and small. They become supple and they begin to grow, and things take place in your life that you probably didn't even know could happen. Dr. Kurt Fisnick, we love you, brother. Welcome to the call tonight, and take it over.
Hey, DW. Thanks for always being part of this call. About a year ago, I was so excited when Aaron called me and he said, Kurt, would you be part of this call? And I'll tell you, everybody that's listening to the call or listening to the recording, I really love sharing this information on healthy aging, and that is what I really see this call is all about is teaching people how to have healthy aging, and we can use it as a tool. We can share information on aging as it relates to nutrition, diet, supplements. And we're not just talking about taking products. We're talking about life. We're talking about things that you can do. So I'm pretty careful, and I always try and say this, that I can never say cure or treat, and I'm careful to add this disclaimer to everything that we do. There's lots of studies on supplements. There's lots of studies on nutrition, but there's no studies on our particular products. And all I can say is that the studies on the supplements, the studies on the extracts that we use indicate that these type of things do make a difference. And then when Sisel, when Tom formulates a product, he uses that science when he develops and formulates the most powerful products in the world. And so I like to say that in the beginning because people say, well, how does it compare to this? And how does it compare to that? Well, it doesn't compare very well because most companies just can't afford to make the type of products that we have. With that, I just want to say, it's kind of funny. When I was young, I had this idea that I didn't want to age. I watched my grandparents age, and I thought, why? Aging brings disease, so I don't want to get old. My middle boy, who's 24 years old now, he's in medical school down at Tulane University, and he's just a brilliant young man. And he told me when he was in high school, he said, Dad, he said, why do you want to live to be so old? Why do you want to live to be in your hundreds? He said, all that does is it means that you're going to have old age diseases. His grandparents, 78, 79 years old now, and he watched them age, and he watched that, and he saw that, and he saw some of the suffering that they had, and he just said, Dad, I don't want any of that. He said, I just want to be taken out when I'm in my 70s. I think he said 78 was the year that he wanted to be taken out of this life because, that's when it seems like people start to have problems. And when you take a look at it, even some of the top advisors to governmental agencies have decided that it's best if we all just die before we turn 80 years of age because they said we become a burden to society. That's one of the advisors to the National Institutes of Health. And he said that, and he was quoted in that in an interview that he had, and I just went, no way. And these are the guys that are making the decisions for you. Well, I became a member of a group that we're really fighting that idea. I joined a group called the Revolution Against Aging and Death, and I really want to live to be a healthy 110 years of age. And, I mean, is aging inevitable? Do we have to age? Sure, we're going to age, but not all living things age. I mean, you think about it, like a bacteria. a 2-day-old bacteria has the same chance of dying as a 10-year-old or 10-day-old bacteria. You know, no matter what age they are, they have the same likelihood of dying. There's actually a type of jellyfish that it can get to the sexual maturity, and it can revert back to the polyp stage. I mean, think about that. So not all living creatures have to age. They don't have to go through the aging process. And I don't think that we want to replace the young of our species with old people, but we do want to say that with age comes wisdom, and history can reveal some clues on life, and it can make life better. Not that long ago, I wrote a chapter to a book that's not been published yet, but in that chapter, you know, I really said that if you grow old and you don't share your information on how you grow old then with your story, then really no matter how successful you were in life, were you really successful? Right? I mean, because you got to pass that information on. But in today's standards, we judge people by the material things that they have. And so they say, oh, you know, Steve Jobs was successful, but, you know, in my opinion, was he really? He died of a preventable disease. Was he successful? Not by my definition. And I could name a lot of other people. And we really need to take a look at that and say, you know, we can live for a long time without having these diseases of aging. So tonight I really wanted to share some things on telomeres. And telomeres, for those of you who don't know, it's a region of your chromosome that determines really your lifespan. It determines how old you're going to be when you're going to die. And without telomeres, our cells cannot divide, and we have certain death. The progressive shortening of our telomeres leads to the diseases of aging. And that's what I want to really talk about in the next 20 minutes or so. And I want to relate it to three things, really: cancer, heart disease, and Alzheimer's or dementia. And one scientist that I follow, he says that we can't define aging as just a myriad of a dozen or so independent diseases. Aging really is the disease of telomere shortening. The disease of telomere shortening. That's aging. And it's not just words. It's not just semantics. And if we look at helping people age, we'll come up with a cure for the diseases of aging, right? And the diseases that make us degenerate and wither away. So let's defeat this thing called aging in a real graceful way. And we have to look at a question that's been asked for generations, for thousands of years, you know, and people climb to the top of mountains to ask the really intelligent people, why do we age? How do we stop the aging? And so we really need to look at something. We know that the human body has the capability. Scientists say that we have the capability, every one of us, to live to be over 120 years of age. And many scientists now are saying that this is actually kind of short. They're saying that it's actually 140 years. But why is it that the average human dies a lot sooner than that? Why do they die before their time? And why is it that people die, not just die, right? I mean, I went to school for engineering before I went into chiropractic, before I got into this whole age reversal thing. And I like graphs. I like numbers. I like stats. And why is it that people die in an agonizing way, years and years ahead of their time, right? On the back of my business card, it says, have you ever thought about living forever? And people kind of chuckle and they look at that. And I say, well, wouldn't you like that? Better than dying forever? And so many people, they take this slow road down to death, down to death's door. Why can't we remove that portion of it and make it so that we can live a long time in a healthy way? So that's kind of my quest. You know, that's what I want to figure out. And I'm not a scientist. I don't know. Maybe I am. I'm what they call a citizen scientist. I don't want to do the research, but I'm certain that I'm going to pay attention to it. some people, like I pointed out last week, tell me that they want to know what I know. And I tell them the same thing. Every week I have to tell somebody this. I say, you really don't want to know what I know. What's that movie, A Few Good Men with Tom Cruise and Jack Nicholson? When they say something to the effect that means if you knew what I would know, if you knew what I know, it'd probably scare the pants right off you. You couldn't handle some of the stuff that I know, and they talk about it in books, and some of it really is scary of what some scientists are predicting it's coming. But so I try to get people to understand, if they just understand how to apply the things, we can move forward with an idea that we can all live a healthy forever. And I don't mean that I want to be immortal by any means, but I just really want to live healthy forever instead of dying forever. And that's what we all want to see in today's world. So DW knows, Dan Kinnison knows that I love cars. I like cars, and I spend probably more money on cars than most people do. But cars eventually break down because the parts wear out. Those parts can be replaced, but in your body, we really have the ability to actually manufacture those parts in our body. If I break a bone, it heals up. I might need a cast to hold it in place as it heals so it heals properly, but it will heal on its own intervention without any intervention from a doctor or a hospital. I mean, think about what they did way back thousands and thousands of years ago. Those bones healed up, but your plasma TV won't do that, right? Knock it off the shelf and it cracks the screen. It's not going to grow a new screen. And think about your car. As your car sits in the garage, or as your car ages, as you drive it, you're continually replacing parts, and as it gets older and older and older, you're replacing more parts. And you just can't afford to maintain it forever. But people aren't concerned with keeping their car because they know that they can replace it with another functioning vehicle. They know when they wear that car out, they're just going to go buy another one. They're going to find another one. But we can't just discard our withering old bodies. We need to stimulate our body to repair the damage, repair its own damage. We have one body, and we really are just stuck with it. The good news is that we can convince our bodies to perform maintenance in a manner that allows healthy aging. So that's really what I'm pursuing for the remainder of my life, the next 56 years of my life when I'm 110. And that's what I'm hoping that through these calls I can help teach you the things that I'm learning. And again, so tonight we're talking about telomeres, but we're talking about healthy aging. So think about your car, and if you park it in your garage with an empty gas tank, you take the battery out, and really, in car standards, that car is now immortal. Put it in a museum, empty gas tank, take all the fluids out, take the battery out, that car's going to last forever, right? If you drive it just 100 miles per month, you're wearing it out. And eventually, if you keep doing that over and over and over, the more you drive it, it wears out more quickly. But in people, right, if I take a look at it, the opposite is true. If I just sit around and I take the fluids out, nothing in the tank, no battery, no energy, your body dies. People who sit in a 70-degree room and do nothing but watch TV die more quickly than somebody who runs marathons. Keeping a car in motion makes it wear out more quickly, but if we keep our body moving, we wear out more slowly. So we can't always use, material things like cars to explain how the human body wears out. If we take a look at it, telomeres were really discovered in the 1930s. At that time, they were just kind of a curiosity, and they were discovered in a fruit fly. But that was around 1938, somewhere in that time frame. In 1961, Dr. Leonard Hayflick began to really study an idea that cells could only divide so many times before the cell couldn't divide anymore, and that was when cell death occurred. Replicative senescence, and that's when the cell exhausted its number of divisions that were available. The limit to which the cell could divide has been termed the Hayflick limit, based on Dr. Hayflick. So if we could extend this Hayflick limit, to where the number of times a cell could divide, that's where the 2009 Nobel Prize comes in. They discovered how to do that. There's a unit, a small unit, very, very small particles, and those are called nucleotides. When we're born, or when we're conceived, actually, we're given approximately 15,000 of these nucleotides. But by the time we're born, by the time we come out of the womb, we've used up a third of them, and we've only got about 10,000 left. And during a lifetime, this number continues to shorten and shorten and shorten because of the process of cell division. And when we get down to about 5,000, somewhere between 3,000 to 5,000, the cells can't divide any longer, not in a healthy way. And all of a sudden, we start to experience old age cell death. The cells start to die of really old age. So in 2009, they really found that they could add some ticks to the telomere clock. And it's quite amazing science, and I could spend hours explaining it. I won't do that. But based on real science, not science fiction, they discovered that the telomere nucleotides could benefit from natural extracts. They would benefit so much that the telomere could be supported and would possibly be stimulated to grow new nucleotides. And I need to say support and possibly stimulated, because if we use any natural formulation and we start making claims, right, we start making medical claims, then it's considered a drug. And that's not what we're talking about. We're not talking about a drug here. We're talking about natural things. So there is a drug being developed, and I was reading about it yesterday, and that drug was developed from a male hormone, and really, in my opinion, that's not good, because if we take a look at any drug that's been made from exogenous hormones, the results just, in my opinion, turn out to be a disaster. Let's look at Premarin, for instance, right? They take estrogen from pregnant horse urine. Premarin, pregnant mare urine. And the estrogen is thousands and thousands of times stronger than that what's found in a woman's body. And so the woman's body doesn't know how to break down. It doesn't know how to get rid of it. And then it has to be stored in fatty tissue. Well, guess where women have fatty tissue? It's around the breast area. It's around the midsection. And so it increases the odds of having breast cancer. It increases the odds of having uterine and cervical cancer. And in my opinion, that's just not good. I mean, that's not good at all. And so now they're making a drug that they're saying enhances telomeres, and they're making it out of a male hormone. Yeah, I don't like that idea. So we can say that, we have some extracts that support healthy telomeres. That's all we can say. We can't say it stimulates it in any way, and that, because then we're talking about drugs. So what are these extracts? Where do they come from? And that's a really good question. A long time ago in ancient China, back in the old dynasties, the emperors would eat plants and herbs, and the Chinese were very intellectual, and they found that there were certain herbs that would extend their lives, and one plant or herb was called astragalus. They didn't know what the extracts were. They didn't know the specific extracts, but they just knew that if they gave this to their emperors, that they would live longer, and they would kind of stave off the old age diseases better than the men who weren't taking it. So we know now that those extracts, cycloastragenol and astragaloside, they're kind of considered the gold standard in the telomere support science. And based on the formulation that we have with Sisel, we know that we have one of the highest concentrations of any product on the market. And our opinion is that we have a product that's much more potent and many times more effective. And that's not been tested by any independent lab, so we can't make that claim for sure. It's my opinion, but we do know that we have the highest concentrations of these ingredients. On top of that, we've added some other plant extracts like bacopa that appears to help also support healthy telomeres at any age, and our Sisel formulation has higher concentration of this extract as well. So we have a concentrated and highly formulated powerful telomere support product. It's probably the best one I've ever seen. And for those of you that pay attention to this telomere science, I've looked at quite a few different products. There's quite a few on the market. Some, aren't very good at all, and some are okay. But I'm actually talking with a lab based out of Spain. They do the best telomere testing, and they have the most accurate telomere testing available. All other labs really test the average telomere length, and if you're looking at the average, you kind of miss knowing what you really want to know. You want to know how long are the short telomeres, because it's the short telomeres that are going to put you under the dirt, and that's what you really want to know. You want to know what the short telomeres are, not the average. And so when I was out in California a couple of weeks ago, I met with the owner of this company, and in the past, still now, this lab was probably about twice as expensive as the labs with the other companies, but it is more accurate. And so I talked to the owner of the company, and he agreed to give me a discount if I can promise him that I'll order a certain number of tests at a time. And so you'll be hearing me talk about this more in the future, but I'll get you more information as that kind of comes to fruition. But let's bring this into a focus that makes it kind of useful, make this information useful for everyone. So we know that the population of our planet is aging. Not only is the population getting older, but the people are getting old. We're all getting old. And with age comes old age disease. Number two, we know that most of us don't necessarily want to get older faster, and we certainly do not want to come down with diseases of old age like arthritis, cardiovascular health problems, cancer, memory problems like we talked about last week with dementia, Alzheimer's disease. We just don't want those things. Number three, we know that telomeres have something to do with the aging process, and we know that if we can rebuild the telomeres, we can only imagine that we can slow this aging process down, and it helps prevent the diseases of old age. We know that there's certain things about lifestyle that we can control that'll help us slow the aging process and help prevent the diseases of old age. And really, as you're sharing this information with people, just remember that less than 10% of the population really want to be involved with this revolution against aging, and most of them just want to go to their doctor and take medication when they get sick. They want to be, only get active in it after they get sick. And so we're looking for the people that are just like us, the people that are on the call, the people that want to listen to this type of call. Last week, again, I talked a lot about dementia, Alzheimer's, neurogenesis. If we eat right, if we get the right exercise, if we increase those things that stimulate neurogenesis and decrease those things that are neurotoxic, we can lower the risk of developing those types of diseases. But we can also lower the risk of certain types of heart disease, cancer, as well as we can improve and have a stronger immune system. So I won't cover any of that. If you want to know more, reflect back on last week's call. You can go to siseldoctorsclinic.com, and you can listen to last week's call, and you can get that information. But in the last couple minutes, I just really want to talk about cardiovascular and health and cancer as it really relates to telomeres and aging. What does this all mean? Okay, so let's talk about cardiovascular health first. The relationship between it and telomeres, it's been studied a lot. Heart disease is the most common cause of death in the Western world. So you can imagine scientists are really interested in its association with telomere length. In 2001, a study concluded that patients with chronic arterial disease had telomeres in their blood that were about 300 base pairs shorter than the control group that had no heart disease. What does that mean? Well, the length of the telomeres of the participants with the heart disease was comparable to the length of telomeres of those people without heart disease by 8.6 years. So that means that your telomeres, if you have heart disease, are over 8.5 years older than the telomeres of your counterparts, the people without heart disease, right? Wow. I mean, let's just say 10 years. Let's round that up to a decade, right? And so why is telomere science important? Because you won't have as much heart disease. Another study in 2003 that found that when comparing equivalent age based on telomere length, people who suffered from heart attacks had telomere lengths comparably equivalent to people who were 11.5 years older. That same study indicated that people with shorter than average telomeres had 3 times the higher risk of developing a heart attack than those people who had longer telomeres for the people of the same age bracket. Again, we can say without a doubt that short telomeres increase your risk for cardiovascular disease, and so if we induce something that's going to improve the telomere length, will possibly enhance cardiovascular health and maybe prevent cardiovascular disease. And cardiovascular disease is a symptom of aging, so we can slow the aging process, we can lower the symptom. This is my opinion. We can't see a cure to prevent heart disease. So now let's look at cancer. When you don't age in a healthy way, your cells become healthy. They become unhealthy. The telomeres become unstable, and then they become clipped off at higher speeds, and your cells are unhealthy. The only cells with longer telomeres are the cancer cells. Houston, we have a problem, right? When telomeres were originally studied, scientists were faced with proving that anything that enhances telomeres won't enhance the strength of the cancer cells. Well, what they found is that the telomere support extracts actually boost the health of the normal healthy cells, makes them stronger, and helps them so they can fight off disease. And so we can say that they won't boost the cancer cells, but they'll boost the health of the other cells. So there's roughly 100 trillion cells in the human body. Frequently one mutates, and it just starts dividing uncontrollably. They're saying that it happens at least once per day, and a lot of researchers are saying, they're starting to say that every single one of us, as you're listening to this call, as you went through your day today, they're saying every single one of us gets cancer about 7 times every single day. But our immune system fights it off effectively, destroys the cancer cell before it becomes a problem. 7 times per day. When I was reading that, I was going, wow, that's crazy talk. According to the National Cancer Institute, every year, 36 out of every 100,000 people in their early 20s gets diagnosed with cancer. And they're stating that it's highly unlikely that anyone will develop cancer when their telomeres are long, but it is heard of, because cells will mutate and cancer will develop. But if their immune system is enhanced through telomere supporting type ingredients, perhaps that likelihood that that'll grow into a full-blown cancer probably be decreased. In a study in 2009, a study between Georgetown University and the National Cancer Institute actually found that short telomeres lead to telomere dysfunction. That causes instability. That leads to cancer. Some cancers can begin because of short telomeres. So again, healthy telomeres, we might prevent some of these problems. A 2010 study internationally found that in over 750 patients that were studied, that the people that had the shortest telomeres had a 3-time greater risk of developing cancer. So short telomeres increase the risk of cancer and makes the cancer more dangerous. So every standard deviation from the norm, the mortality doubled. So in the future, they're saying that we can actually use this as a tool to help give patients an accurate prognosis for their cancer. And so we can tell someone, hey, based on your telomeres, you need to be more aggressive than that guy over there because his telomeres are longer. He's actually got more chance of fighting this thing off. So I'm going to conclude with this. A couple weeks ago that I reported that if we lower the risk of cardiovascular disease, if we lower the risk of cancer in America, in the Western world, we're going to find that we can improve the longevity by 10 years, right? And so if 10% of the people really want to learn how to do this and they want to learn how to live healthy, then we just need to share this. And you think about my analogy of the car sitting in your garage, right? If it never goes down the road and it wears out, right, it's immortal. But if we sit on the couch all day, we actually wear out faster. We're not cars. We're people. And so the same foods and lifestyle that I talked about last week that are neurotoxic to your brain and slow neurogenesis are the same things that damage the telomeres. We can take care of both at the same time. So, DW, I'm going to hand it over to you, but I'm just going to say this. Next week, I've got a bunch of people who want to share their stories on how the Sisel products benefited their cardiovascular health. And so we'll talk about that next week. Thanks, everyone. DW, I'm going to hand it over to you.
Man, Dr. Kurt Pisnick, absolutely awesome, buddy. We appreciate you bringing it to us just like it is. I mean, no, just not sugar-coated, but just straight up how it is, buddy. That is awesome. And so what's going to happen with Sisel is they're going to put you, the person invited you to this call is going to put you in a position to where you can start making some wise decisions just about how long you want to live. I mean, we all know exercise every day is important. Eating clean is absolutely important. But when you have a product like TSX, and you can put TSX in your body, which puts you in a position to where it allows the telomeres and allows that, because the older you get, it's just kind of like a little cell machine. The older you get, they get kind of shriveled and get kind of crusty and they're not very supple. You get this product and you put yourself in a position to where it starts putting out more cells than your body's burning, which is what happens up to a certain age. But all of a sudden you hit an age, and then you're burning more cells than your body's producing, way sooner than you should. That process shouldn't even happen until about 110 years old. And it's happened to people when they turn 40, and then they turn 36, and they turn 45, and then on up. Well, with the TSX, those telomeres can get the nutrition that they need, and then they're going to be in a position to where they can start firing off more cells. That's kind of a farm boy way of talking about it. Doc Fizz is way better at it than I am on that. And that's going to help you with the having longevity of life. In other words, putting yourself in a position to live longer. Now, you take the next product that goes hand in hand with it. It's a product we call Eternity, which has resveratrol in it, massive amounts, and it has nanotechnology when it comes to the absorption of how that resveratrol nutrient is delivered to your body. So you have rapid absorption of it, but it has the youth gene in it, and that youth gene is the thing that is just going to light your shucks on fire. Here again, back to Farm Boy. That's why we have Doc on here. And he gives you the technical side, but it's just going to light you on fire. I don't care how wet your wood is. It's just absolutely going to light you up and give you that. But you put these two things together, they work well. Another product that comes in is our Omega Plus that's going to work with you. It has some coenzyme Q10 that, and the next product I want to mention real quick is Encompass 360. And that lays a foundation so your body can absorb the resveratrol, so it can absorb all the fish oils and the coenzyme Q10. And, and just begins to protect the cells that you already have. So now we want to make new ones, but we also want to protect the ones that we have that is existing. So that's going to make a big difference in your life as well. Dan Kinnison, are you still with us, my friend? Was hoping to holler at him just real quick. So if you're on, hit *6, talk to us real quick. He's been on TSX for quite a few years. And here's what's neat about our TSX product. The person who invited you can get you in contact, with where you can get your telomeres and everything that's going on tested before. All right, you can get your telomeres tested, and in the process of getting them tested, you can then retest. Dan Kinnison, how do you like the TSX product?
I'm 62, going on 26. So
I love it.
I've been taking about 4 a day. They say my body's the man of a 26-year-old rather than a 62-year-old. So I kind of like the difference,
Well, you bet. And that's scientifically tested, guys. We're not just saying, hey, take it, we're younger. No, I'm just telling you. There is your chronological age, and then there's your biological age. So, Dan, biologically, you're getting younger.
I feel it. I got to keep up with you, my friend.
Well, we're cranking it. We're making things happen because we care about people, and people would rather live longer than shorter, and it's just that they'd rather live healthier than sickly, and that's what we're doing. And so there you heard it, ladies and gentlemen, from Dan Kinnison. He's been on the product. He's had his telomeres tested, going into it, and probably is due for a testing here towards the end of the year again, just to kind of see where he's at. We've seen the average person go through these tests, and after a year to 2 years on the product, their biological age. In other words, have you ever heard the doctor say this to you? Oh, my goodness, you got the heart of a 90-year-old, and the guy's 45 years old, right? Or this, man, he's 75 years old. Man, you got the heart of a 40-year-old. What was the difference there? Resveratrol, telomeres firing off, making things happen. That was the difference there. And so we're in a position to where we can help you with that right here, right now, tonight. You can get some ordered this evening. You can get some in your house with 2-day shipping. And that's how serious we are about helping you, with your heart, with your lungs, with your organs, everything. So, ladies and gentlemen, we're going to pop off this call, but get with the person who invited you. There's more research if you need it. And you just do your own research, and when you find out what we found out, you're going to do the happy dance, because now you can put yourself in a situation to where your heart and your organs and your body has a chance to have optimal health. Thank you, everybody, for being part of the Doctor's Clinic Call, where the world is your waiting room. This is DW. We're over and out. Enjoy the rest of your week, and God bless. A big thanks to Dan Kinnison for helping, and a huge thanks to Dr. Kirk Fisnick for all you did tonight in the research, and we appreciate everybody. We're going to unmute.